I recently started a new account and now I ended up in A-rated lobbies. It was actually a pretty solid one with skilled drivers all around the place. And this video is less about roasting anyone and it's more about just giving some kind of perspective on how to evolve as a driver, sharpen your racecraft, improve your lines and eventually build your skills. We will have a look at a few situations and highlight mistakes you should avoid. For example, early on I made a mistake myself, which you shouldn't do, which I guess it's definitely something that you should avoid, I guess. And even so, after a few laps I just settled in and I actually managed to gain a bit of time. And eventually, two drivers ahead of me slipped up, which allowed me to overtake them without really forcing anything. It was basically I just passed them, that was about it. So in the next few laps I just had to stay focused and, well, use my own reference points, my lines, and, well, don't force it, don't push it, and just stay on the track. And that patience really paid off. And eventually I caught the group up ahead and eventually started making some real progress. Yep, our tires in the pits. Okay, now I'm kind of stuck in traffic here. I'll try to get a couple of places relatively quick. Oh man, too many mistakes now. And in this situation, both drivers braked very late, and the Megane simply didn't use as much space as he could have had. He placed the car in the middle of the road to defend, which is actually a good thing, but at some point you need to recognize that there is still space available and really use it. Because of that defensive line combined with late braking, they were unable to carry as much speed as they usually would into the same corner, and unfortunately it led to contact. And afterwards they just couldn't get on their power as early. And of course, with the momentum I had, I was able to take a slightly wider line than usual, carry more speed through the corner, and eventually overtake both of them. And okay, this was unfortunate at the end. And all in all, I just kept going and didn't really do much at this stage. I was mainly minding my own business, and up ahead there was yet another incident. And sometimes in this lobby, the best approach is to simply stay on the track. I know, it's not easy, but yeah, even using TCS could potentially help you in the situation. Just get a little bit more car control. Even one is not a bad thing. And then spin gave me another position, and once again I was able to overtake without really forcing anything. But now the same pattern repeated, and you will notice it as well. And at this point it's not a coincidence anymore, and you can clearly see that it works. I mean, it can happen every once in a while. Don't think that it's going to work every single time, but it's not a coincidence when it happens 2 laps in a row, overtaking 2 drivers in the same corner. And I believe this just proves that taking the right racing line is the way to go, and it does help massively to prevent incidents and eventually overtake drivers when they are battling. And now you can clearly see the pattern once again. Both of the drivers braked very late into the corner, which compromises their exit. And unfortunately, they're just taking too much speed into the corner, which resulted in a bit of a contact. And on top of that, you can see how long it actually takes for them to apply the power all the way up to 100%. And with my racing line taking it a little bit wider than usual, I am able to carry much more speed through the same corner and get the 2 places. And of course, the end was also very unfortunate. Look at car tires very early in the pits. Very, very early. And I wanted to clarify that the other drivers pitted very early. And in a race like this one, you really need to think carefully about your strategy. Because pitting too soon and switching to the soft often means that your tires will be heavily worn at the end. And you will most likely struggle in the final laps of your stint. And it's very common to miss the right strategy in a lobby like this one. So you really have to think about it. Sometimes pitting too early creates more problems than the actual short-term benefit of those soft tires. So they gained a couple of places at first, got a couple of seconds on the softs, but unfortunately, the softs don't last forever. When the optimal window opened, I pitted in lap 7 and switched to the softs. And by doing that, I knew that I would get the best possible performance all the way through. I came out in 8th place, but that was only the beginning of the rest of this race. And this guy made it a lot easier for me now. It's a GTR. Whoa. I wasn't expecting that he was going to move to the left that much. And once again the move worked, but this time he was on hard tires, which made the pass much easier. This shows why it can be sometimes very smart to start on hard tires. You lose less time in the opening laps, then once the fuel load is lighter you can switch to the softs and run them much longer with, of course, better pace. That's why this plan actually started to work right now. And after that, I found yet another driver that started on the softs, lost time early on, and now he was on the hard tires. Of course, I guess this just made my overtakes a little bit easier than they normally would be. Second place is on the horizon. The podium definitely, but a win, I don't know. And now remember that guy who pitted very early. And look at the gap right now, because he is leading this race. But eventually, that gap will begin to shrink. And this is exactly why I said at the start of this video that you need to think carefully about your strategy and choose the right moment to pit. Soft tires can be effective, but they never really last forever, and this situation makes it very clear. The other drivers ahead of me stopped also quite early, and now I'm the one on the fresher tires, and I think it's time to chase them down. Outside. Let's do it. Go. And at this point, I was on the podium, and all I had to do now was chase down the driver ahead. He had a really cool nickname, by the way, but he pitted much earlier than I did, and his tires were clearly not in the best shape. That gave me a perfect chance to close in and go for it. I'll send it. Oh, maybe I can get him. You know what? 3.6 seconds. And if he pitted in lap 3, he just doesn't have any tires. Like, absolutely none. And the gap was really starting to come down, and he was definitely struggling with his tires. This is why pitting that early is not such a good idea. Sure, you're quicker at first, but if you're about to push those tires very early on, they will definitely not last. And you can end up losing up to 2 seconds per lap later on, which is far from ideal. So I just pushed a little bit harder at this stage because my tires were actually in a much better condition. And the gap was closing. Still, 3 seconds in 1 lap was a bit too much to ask. So I settled for 2nd place. Given the circumstances, this was actually a really good result. The main point of this video is to show that sometimes it's not about consistently driving on the absolute limit. Instead, it's more about sticking to your reference points, avoiding unnecessary risks, and actually not braking too late, because braking that often and that late can do actually more harm than good. And in a lobby like this one, you definitely need to think, what is the optimal way to approach the race? Not just what feels good at the moment, but what really gives you the best chance to maximize your pace and consistency. This is the difference between A-rated drivers and A+ rated drivers. The gap isn't huge, but the small details make all of the difference. And hopefully, this video made it clear. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below. Thanks for watching.